Welcome to Dream, where we are focused on connecting to and building community. We are committed to helping individuals break cycles. We are delighted that you have taken the opportunity to join us. So prepare yourselves for this week's teaching and equipping session. Get ready to be educated, equipped, and set free as you listen to this week's broadcast. And
Hey, Dream Family. It is Kai Cunningham, and I am so excited, you guys, to join you on this Tuesday evening to talk about lessons I learned in the wilderness. Lessons I learned in the wilderness. You guys, this came to me a few days ago. I was up just, having my time, just woke up in the middle of the night and was praying, and God just began to download 3 important lessons that I learned in my wilderness season. And I knew I needed to share this with you guys. We've talked a lot, and Kenny and I have gone back and forth with True Tuesday here for a couple of months now. And we've covered some of these things, but I needed to condense them into the 3 things. If I gave you 3 things to walk away with and go, if I go through wilderness season, here's what I need to know going into it and coming out of it. What would those three things be? And these are the 3 things that stood out to me, that God began to download to me, that were important for this, because we will go through our challenges. We will have obstacles. We will go through those moments where, we are trying to decipher what to do next and praying for God to give us guidance. But while you're going through that season of wilderness, I need you to know what you do with it. So let's go ahead and let's just dive into tonight, and we'll get through the 3 things. So first thing, I'm going to give it to you. God will prepare a table for you in the presence of your enemies. So while I'm in front of my enemies, while everything is happening, God will prepare a table. And this can be an uncomfortable thing. I have read the story of Joseph many, many times over the years. But this one thing stood out to me for the first time reading it, and that has never stood out to me prior. And because of the situation that I was going through a few months ago, I think that's the reason why it hit home. Sometimes you can read a story in the Bible and you get things out of it, but when it becomes apparent that you're going through a season like that person in the Bible, or you're going through a situation, sometimes things just jump out to you that you've never seen. So let's see what jumped out to me. If you go with me to Genesis 43, verse 32. And this is the second time where Joseph is seeing his brothers. The first time they came without his younger brother, Benjamin. This is the time where they brought Benjamin, and he actually saw Benjamin and had not seen him for many, many years, because we know the story of Joseph, where his brothers sold him into slavery because they didn't like him. They were upset with him. They were extremely frustrated by their father, who favored him. He was a dreamer. He shared his dreams with them, that God said that they would bow down to him. And, they were very frustrated. He was telling all the things that his brothers did that were not what they were supposed to be doing. So they made up in their mind, I'm going to sell him, and we're going to get rid of him. At first it was, we going to kill him. But his older brother said, let's not do that. Let's do something a little bit different. Let's just put him in this pit. And the plan was to go back to the pit and get Joseph out, but that's just not what happened. What ended up happening was his brother sold him when his older brother was away. And then that is how he ended up into Potiphar's home first. And we know the story. Potiphar's wife tried to seduce Joseph. It did not work. And so what ended up happening after that was she lied and said he tried to rape her. And so he was thrown into prison. 2 prisoners had dreams. He interpreted the dreams, told them, when you go before Pharaoh, tell him what I did. Remember me. Both dreams came true. One was killed within 3 days, and the other one was restored back into his position, serving Pharaoh. And then we know some time had passed, and then Joseph, Pharaoh had a dream. And when Pharaoh had that dream, the person who was in jail, his wine cupbearer, remembered Joseph, and he was able to tell him, hey, I know somebody who can interpret your dream. And that's how Joseph got back in front of Pharaoh. So now, fast forward, we're at the place now in the story where where Joseph is now serving under Pharaoh. And he is still, with the Egyptians. He's still there. But even though he's there, God is using him like he had planned many, many years before that. And it was trying to tell him in the beginning, I'm going to use you. He just didn't tell him what he had to go through in order to get there. So now he's being used by Pharaoh. He's helped them out. He's interpreted the dream. We're going to have 7 years of feast, and then we're going to have 7 years of famine. And this particular part of the story is where they're going through those 7 years of famine. And so because of his planning and God's divine intervention and telling Joseph what to do and giving him the instructions he needed, Joseph was able to prepare the people for this. But even though he prepared the people for it, even though it's because of him they're eating now, even though, he set them up for success because of what God, gave him, he's still challenged. And I think that's what we miss. So let's go to verse 43 and 32. And it said, they served him by himself. So he's at a table by himself. The brothers by themselves, who were at a totally different table. And the Egyptians who ate with him by themselves, because Egyptians could not eat with Hebrew, for that is detestable to Egyptians. So although he's there, he's serving them, he's able to, he's in a position where God is using him. Because he understood the feast and famine, he was able to prevent them from starving. He's still detestable to Egyptians. This is a lesson to you guys, because I think often it's easy for us to believe when we're being used by God, God is going to surround us with people who like us, who think like us, who accept us, who embrace us. And it is a challenge to think that God may put you in the room and people still don't like you. God may place you in a room with people who detest you. People who don't think you're gifted, people who don't think you're called, people who don't think that God chose you, people who don't think that you're special, people who don't feel like you're chosen, people who feel like you're beneath them, people who feel like they can't stand you. They think that somebody else should have been chosen instead of you. You will still be in the room with those people, and you will still be able to eat. Because even though Joseph was in that room with them, he still had food for him and for his brothers. And he was put in a position to be able to take care of not only the Egyptians and making sure, even though they despised him, he's detestable to them, that they were able to have provision, but he was able to have provision for his brothers, for his fathers, to you guys. Don't let your situation, your current situation, cause you to miss out on where God called you to, or cause you to get up from the table. Because just because they don't like you at the table doesn't mean you need to move your seat, or it's time for you to move your feet, or it's time for you to go somewhere else. Until God tells you it's time to move, keep eating. That's a very hard lesson, because we often feel like if I'm at a table they don't want me at, I'm gonna get up and go to another table. But if God didn't tell you to move your feet, stay right where you are, because he's using you in that season. And you have no idea what's out there, what may or may not be out there for you, or God may close doors, other opportunities, because I didn't tell you to leave. I didn't tell you to move. I didn't tell you to get up. You may be in position to be a blessing to somebody else who's coming. And if you get up and you move from your post where God has called you to be, you may miss out on that opportunity. That person may miss out on the opportunity. You may not be there to open the door for that person. You don't know what God is holding that company, that church, that ministry, that business, what he's holding it from. And just because you're in the room, they have provision, and they may not give you a pat on the back and tell you, I thank you for being here. That's okay. That's all right. Just remember, you're where you're supposed to be. Let me give you another verse to look at. Psalms 23 and 5. It says, thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. So even though my enemies may be all around me, God is still preparing a table before you. You still gonna eat. So go ahead, pull up your chair, get your plate and your fork, and while they looking down their nose at you, continue eating, continue working, continue building, continue doing what God called you to do. Even though everybody don't agree, everybody feel like you just not good enough, whatever they're thinking, let them think it. But you stay focused on what God told you to do. It reminds me of those things, those blinders that horses have. When they're in parades, so it keeps them focused on what's ahead of them, so they can't pay attention to what's on the side of them. That's almost what you have to do. You have to have blinders on. Yeah, I know you looking down your nose at me. Yeah, I know you think I'm not worthy to be here. Yeah, I know there's somebody else that you think is better, looks prettier, looks nicer, talks more eloquent. Yeah, I know there's somebody who knows the Bible backwards and forward, and you feel like that should have been the one that God called or chose. Yeah, I know you think it should have been you who was in this position, your best friend, your husband, your whoever. But you're going to have to keep your blinders on and stay focused. I can't get distracted by what other people are thinking, saying, or doing. My blinders are on. I'm focused on what God told me to do. I'm focused on God, and that's it. I can't look to the left or right and get distracted in anything else. I know that's been something that I've said, and several other ministers, Apostle Deborah said many, many times over the past couple of years, not even over the past couple of weeks or months, over the past couple of years. We can't afford to get distracted by what's going on around us, by what's going on over here, over there, what they doing, who doing this. We got to stay focused in. And so again, he'll prepare a table before you in the presence of your enemies. So they'll still be there. And then the next part, I love it. It says, thou anointest my head with oil. God will anoint you. He's anointed you for this. So it doesn't matter who think you shouldn't be, where you shouldn't be at, what you shouldn't be doing. It doesn't matter that your enemies are looking down their nose at you. God anointed me for this. He's already given me what I need to succeed at this. So I don't have time to worry about who mad because I'm here. It's okay. And then it says, and my cup runneth over. My cup runneth over. I don't have any lack. I'm abundance. I'm living in abundance because I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So things are just working out because I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So that again is why you can't get caught up in who's doing what, saying what all around you. I just can't do it. Let's go on to number two. Number two, worship. God teaches you how to worship in the wilderness. He's going to give you exactly what you need and exactly the provisions you need. But what you need to focus on is him. You need to focus on your role that he told you to do. And you need to focus on worshiping in the wilderness. And he's going to teach you how to do that. Let me talk a little bit about what worship in the wilderness means. I found this and I thought this was so amazing. It means the act of worshiping God in difficult or challenging times. When I'm in the table, I'm in the wilderness, it is a challenge. Because I may feel isolated, often feeling isolation, uncertainty, hardships, essentially finding spiritual connections even when life feels like a barren desert. That's what the wilderness feels like. I feel isolated. And I know many of us can talk about times where we felt like I'm speaking to God, but God hasn't given me an answer yet. And oftentimes feeling like, God, are you listening to me? Do you hear me telling you I'm scared? I don't know what to do next. This is a place that I've never been before. I feel like the enemies are all around me. I'm completely surrounded by people who are constantly ridiculing me. I feel like I'm just not able to get through this. There is a hardship that I'm trying to get through, and I don't know the answer. And so in the wilderness, it can feel overwhelming. And this is a time where we need to really just worship God. And instead of reminding God of the problem, because I've said this before, God didn't forget that you were struggling. He didn't forget that you were facing challenges. He knows your enemies are all around you. He already knows what the problem is. You don't have to keep reminding him this is still the problem. This is where I go, God, I trust you and I'm going to worship you. And that is so much easier said than done. I know. You are preaching to the choir. I know there have been some times where all I could do was just cry, like, God, I just let the tears flow, because I can't even verbalize what I'm feeling, because I was filled with so much doubt that I thought if I speak it out loud, the enemy is going to come for my words. So I can't even give a word right now. I just need to be quiet and just cry, because God, I know you know my heart. You know the heaviness that I felt. He knew the problems that I was dealing with. He knew the issues that felt like they were drowning me. At times I felt like I was suffocating. God, I'm not even going to speak right now, because I don't even trust my mouth what may come out of it. So instead of giving you my words, I'm just going to give you your words. I'm just going to sing a song. I'm going to open the Bible and I'm going to read a Bible verse, and I'm just going to speak that out loud, because I don't trust what I might say. And that's where you've got to get in a place of worship, even though everything feels chaotic around you. Kai, you don't understand. I'm in foreclosure. Kai, you don't understand. I got walked off my job. Kai, you don't understand. The bills are piling up. Kai, you have no idea the medical issues that I'm dealing with right now. Kai, it's easy for you to say it because you've never been through it. You guys, if Kenny and I could pull a list of the things we've just been through in just the past few weeks, we don't even go back that past few months, just the past few weeks, some of you will be astounded to know. But they kept coming on giving a word. They kept coming in every week, dedicated, going, listen, God, I still give you all of me. Because we couldn't just walk it. We couldn't just talk it. We had to put some action behind it. So God had to go, can I trust you with it? When you go through challenges, what are you going to do? So when I tell you these are the lessons that I learned in the wilderness, me, right here. I learned it in the wilderness. And my wilderness experiences wasn't 50 years ago. It was here recently. And so I had to learn how to worship God when I felt overwhelmed. I had to learn how to trust in God when everything around me looked like it was going wrong. God, I still trust you. I still believe you gonna bring me out of this. But if I'm looking around right now, and I still had to believe it, because I know it wasn't Kai. I couldn't get us out. Kenny couldn't get us out. It had to be God. So you guys go with me to Psalms 23. We're all about Psalms 23 today. It says, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. I won't fear anything, even though in the valley of the shadow of death is this wilderness. I'm walking through this wilderness experience, Kai, with my foreclosure happening, with my job that just laid me off, with my children acting up, with my marriage falling apart. I'm walking through this valley right now, but I'm not fearing anything, because I know there's nothing too hard for God. I can do all things through Christ who strengthened me. So I need to make sure that I'm standing on his word. I will fear no evil. That means even though the table before me is before me in the presence of my enemy, I ain't scared of none of y'all. I ain't scared of not a one. Yes, you talking about me, you plotting on me, you got something that you trying to do to me. I'm not scared. I'm going through this boldly because I know God planted me here. And I'm not moving till God tell me where to go to next. And if I get walked off the job now, right now, I know God got a plan for me. I don't know what it is yet, but he gonna show me exactly where I'm supposed to go. If the house is getting ready to go into foreclosure, God, I know you have a plan for me. What is it? What is it? And I'm going to patiently wait for him to give me an answer. And that in itself is also difficult because, y'all, there were times where I was like, God, can you answer me? I know it's 6:28 or 7:28 or 8:28 or 9:28. Can you answer me in 2 minutes? Like, are you too busy to give me an answer in like 2 minutes? What about 5 minutes? Can we make it 5 minutes? And my time and God's time are not always aligned because I want it right now. And sometimes God is working things out. He's perfecting a thing. And I need to trust him to perfect what he's perfecting. And sometimes that is challenging because we are accustomed to things happening right now. Like, I want God right now, God. And that's not always how he answers. And then sometimes we're being human. We try to, I'm going to figure it out for God. Like, God, I'm going to tell you, you stay right here. I'm going to go fix it. And then when I finish fixing it, I'm going to come back. And then I end up making it even worse than if I would have just sat still and waited on him. So you guys, I will fear no evil. It says, thy rod and thy staff comfort me. One is to guide, one is to correct. Thy rod and thy staff. And sometimes we need God to take his little staff and push us back on track because we've gotten off, we've veered to the left or too far to the right. And I need him to pull me back in order where I'm supposed to be. Because I done got distracted, or I started looking around, or I started trying to figure out my own way. And he's got to pull Kai back. Kai, come on back over here. You going over there. That's not where I told you to be at. I told you to be right here. Yeah, I know your enemies are starting to pile up and you sitting at the table and they're making you uncomfortable. So you done decided you want to stand up, and I need to tell you, come back. Or yeah, your enemy done said something crazy to you at work, or this person done did something outrageous to you and you want to, bounce back or say something back to them. And I got to get you back on track because you starting to let your flesh show. Wait a minute, hold on, that's not where I called you to be. Or you see that guy, you're trying to have that relationship, but I didn't tell you to get in a relationship with him or with her, so I got to get you back on track. Yeah, you see that house and you want to go get it, but I didn't tell you to go get that house. That's not the one I told you to get. So now I got to get you back on track. And then sometimes we need the rod of correction because you just completely done whatever you wanted. I've completely wilded out, and God is like, got to pop you down. And you guys know what that is, that correction when you were acting up as a child and your mom had to pop you or your dad had to pop you to get you back in order. Sometimes that's what we need from God, just a little pop to get you back in order because you just done went way too far. And I need to get you back into position. And so I'm thankful for that because it also says they comfort me. And not only the rod of correction for me, but when the enemy is trying to come up and attack me, then God has to really knock him out to get him up off of me. When the enemy thinks he's got his snares in me and he's got me and he's able to pull me into something else, or, he's thinking I'm about to take her out, and God had to show up with that rod and knock him out, get up off of her. That's not what you're going to do. You're not taking her anywhere. You're not taking her out. That's mine right there. And not only for me, but he has to do that for you too. So they comfort me. There's a comfort in knowing that God is watching out for us, that he's protecting us, that he's keeping us. There's a comfort that comes with that. Last one, battle strategy. God will sharpen your skills and teach you the weapons of your warfare. He'll teach you the weapons of your warfare. So that way you know what you're supposed to be doing and how you're supposed to be moving. I'm not taking out the wrong weapon at the wrong time. Or I'm not taking out a weapon and it's not even a weapon that works. Or I don't know how to use it. And so I'm looking crazy when the enemy is coming in. So in the seasons of wilderness, God will teach you the weapons of your warfare, because it's preparation time to get you ready for what you're going to have to endure next. It's preparation time. The Bible talks about when Moses brought the children of Israel, Israel out of Egypt. And it talked about, this was a 10-day journey, and God was saying, I'm not going to take them directly into it, because if they did, they would have had to fight people. But I'm going to kill off the people in the land so they don't have to fight them. And I need to prepare them for battle too. So because if he took them directly into the promised land, they would have saw the giants and ran away. Like, this is not it. I don't want anything to do with it. They would have saw the inhabitants of the land and ran away. And so he had to get them ready in the wilderness so that they can understand that God is a mighty God and he's able to do all things. And there are things that you are able to accomplish too. And you got to be ready for warfare. And so that's what was happening in the wilderness. It was a preparation season. So this is what you do in your wilderness season, is God sometimes isolates you, because I need to separate you from all of the noise, from all of the distractions, from everybody else, so that he can commune and he can speak to you and he can build you up and he can get you equipped with what you need in order to go into the next battle. It is not time for us to kick, scream, and cry and pout because we're here. It is time for us to go, okay, God, what am I supposed to learn when I'm in this season? What am I supposed to be doing while I'm in this season? So that way I'm prepared for next level and I'm not getting taken out by the enemy. There's a preparation that takes place. So I want you guys to go with me to 2 Corinthians 2. We're going to go to 2 Corinthians 2 and 10, 2 through 6. Let me get it up. And it says, I beg you that when I come, I may not have to be as bold as I expect to be towards some people who think that we live by the standards of this world. For though we live in the world, we do not wage war as the world does. And I'm sorry, hold on for 1 second. Sorry, guys. I knew my son was coming in and the dogs were going to start barking as soon as he walked through the door. So let's go ahead. We're going back to 2 Corinthians 10 and 2. And it says, I beg you that when I come, I may not have to be as bold as I expect to be towards some people who think that we live by the standards of this world. For though we live in this world, we do not wage war as the world does. I'm not fighting like the world fights. That means just because she get out in her flesh and she does it a certain way and he's cheating people and he's getting over on people and she's doing this and he's doing that, I'm not doing it like the world. We're not supposed to conform to this world, but we're supposed to be transformed. And so that's what verse 3 is talking about. So let's go on to verse 4. It says, the weapons we fight with are not the weapons of the world. On the contrary, they have divine power to demolish strongholds. We demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God. And we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. And we will be ready to punish every act of disobedience once obedience is complete. We demolish our arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God. So we fight differently. I'm not fighting against God. That's not what I'm doing. I'm fighting with God. And I'm fighting against evil. Anything that's contrary to God, I'm standing boldly against it. I understand the weapons of my warfare, which means that I am not trying to take a hammer and make a hammer do what a screwdriver should do. Just not doing it. I know there are certain jobs that will require me to use a screwdriver, and I understand how to use it, when to use it, where to use it, why I use it. I understand there are certain jobs that require me to use a hammer, and I'm not going to try to use a hammer when I need a screwdriver, because I know whatever I'm putting together that requires that screwdriver, I'm gonna break it apart with a hammer. I'm going to bust it up. It was a waste of money, waste of effort, waste of energy, waste of time when I really needed a screwdriver for that role. There are certain jobs, certain times where God is going to teach you a different weapon. Maybe your weapon for this season is worship. That's the weapon I need you to focus on building up, is your weapon of worship. Maybe in this season, I need you to use your weapon of prayer. I need you to become more in tune with the relationship with me and praying. So I need you to strengthen your prayer time. And so that's the weapon I need you to use in this season, is prayer. Maybe I need you to use the weapon of listening. So I need you to be so in tune. God needs you to be so in tune with him that when he speaks, you hear, you respond. He speaks, I hear, I respond. So whatever he just told me to do, I heard it, I'm moving. I'm not waiting and going, well, God, was that you? I don't know if that was God. Maybe it wasn't God. Maybe God didn't want me to do that. Maybe he wanted me to do this. Well, he said go to the left, but I don't really see anything on the left. So let me keep going straight. And maybe he meant go to the left later on. And so I'm delaying obedience, because I'm not in tune with God and I'm not listening to him. I'm waiting for this pastor, this prophet, this preacher to give me a word and interpret what God is saying to me, instead of me just listening to him, because he's speaking to me clearly. So instead of me listening to God, I'm now listening to your voice, and you become my God. Maybe the weapon he wants me to use in this season is, I need you to speak and bind up some things. And so I need to strengthen you in binding. I need to strengthen you in breaking some curses off of your family. Maybe the weapon I need for you to use in this season is fasting. I need you to go through some fasting right now in this wilderness, because I need you to break some things off of you. And right now you can't do it because you're not strong enough. And I need you to fast, because this type comes off through fasting and praying. So I need you to get in a season of fasting and praying. Maybe that's the weapon he wants you to use. Maybe the weapon he's trying to strengthen you in is because you're too timid. You're too timid. So you're sitting at the table with your enemies, but you're scared to talk, to look up, to move, to breathe. You just timid. And so God is trying to build up a boldness in you. And how does he do that? By challenging you to speak when you just sitting quietly. Now, I don't want you to let people step all over you. This is what I need you to do in this season. I need you to open your mouth. Maybe it's because he's put words in your mouth that you were supposed to speak, but you're so afraid to open your mouth and say it because, God, I'm not really an apostle. I'm not really a prophet. I'm not a pastor. I'm not an elder. I don't have a title. I just got saved yesterday. Now you telling me to tell people stuff. I'm scared to tell them. I'm not going to say anything. Again, delayed obedience or disobedience. So you got to ask God, what weapons are you teaching me in this season? What are you telling me? So I can make sure that I'm sharpening those weapons. Because what happens is, if you don't sharpen that skill set, that weapon, that tool becomes dull. And so when you need it, I don't know how to use it. Or I haven't sharpened it. So when I need it, it's so dull that it's not causing any damage. And the enemy just laughing at me like I'm coming to a battle with a toothpick. And I'm trying to beat you back with a toothpick. And it's not going to do any damage to the enemy. And so God, teach me how to use my weapons. Teach me when to use them. Because the same thing can happen in the opposite. I'm bringing out weapons, of strength that I've used to sharpen, but this ain't the battle for that weapon. And so now I'm coming off looking like I'm an abusive Christian. I'm just beating everybody over the head. And God is going, wait. I didn't tell you to come in and do that. I told you to come in. You're supposed to come in like a gentle breeze in this wilderness after this experience. I didn't tell you to come in beating everybody. That wasn't what I told you to do. And so I need to listen and hear so I know what I'm supposed to do, how I'm supposed to move. So, you guys, those were the three things I got for you. Again, the first thing, God will prepare a table for you in the presence of your enemies. So that's the first thing. Second thing, worship. God will teach you how to worship in the wilderness. And the last thing, battle strategy. God will sharpen your skills and teach you the weapons of your warfare. So, y'all, that has been True Tuesday. I pray that this word has been a blessing to you, that you take those three things in your wilderness experience and you hold on to them, write them down. So, next time you go through a challenge or as you're going through a challenge, you'll remember these top three things and definitely go back and listen to all the messages on Joseph that were released over the past couple of weeks. We're going to put them together in a series so that way you can just listen to them one after another. And if God should so happen to give me something else to release on this one, I'll release that too. All right, we see you guys next time. I believe we're coming back on Sunday from 9 to 10. And so we will have a fantastic service there. And if you guys did not listen to the message from this past Sunday on fear, go watch that. Go watch that. It will bless your soul. You guys have a good one, and we'll see you next time.